Okay, hi everyone. My name's Liz McCreesh. I'm a principal consultant here at Thorogood, and I also head up our analytics practice. Today I'm going to do some background really on the Thorogood Automated Insight tool, which is a bit of a mouthful, why there's a need for it and what it can do for you. The example we're going to do here is for manufacturing, but the underlying principles I think are the same regardless of what business you're in. The concepts of having a customer and then a concept of having a product. That product may be a can of deodorant, it could be a mortgage, it could be an insurance policy. What I'll also do, I'll give you a very short demo so you can kind of see the end results that you get out of the system. And then what a kind of a typical engagement would mean. What is the overall problem that we're trying to solve here? A lot of organisations have got lots of data that they're trying to pull together. As Amanda said, we've got internal data, we've got external data, different levels of granularity. But the important thing is to get all of that data into one place so you can really view it. And quite often what we do is we'll have a dashboard, which will take internal data and external data as well. And basically what allows us to look at our competitors' performance, look at our market share, and really get a sense of how we're working within the market. And also then gives us a little bit of an insight into the consumer buying patterns as well. I love BI, I love reports, I love dashboards. So the first thing, I think, once you get that dashboard together, it should be very intuitive and allow you to see different cuts of your data and different ways of interacting. So here we can see we've got a report looking at our market share and some sales information. If I click here, I can see I've actually got an increase year on year from last year. And I might want to delve into that and understand a bit more about what those drivers are. So with the dashboard, I've got a number of different options. So I can start doing some filters. But do I want to filter that by pack size, by brand, by price segment? There's lots of different combinations and permutations I could look at. All very useful. Or maybe I want to drive and do drill-through reports. So having that guided analytics on your dashboard, you see something of interest, and then you can do a deep dive into that. So I could choose here and look at my view by brand. Again, I might want to filter that down to a particular pack size. And here then I can see I've got an outlier. So I've had to go through quite a few clicks here to look at my data to find something that could be of interest I want to do some investigation on. If I was going to do this manually for every combination of data I've got here in my system, it would take me a month of Sundays. Very Irish term, I think, but a very long time, having to go through each one together. So what we want to do is try and surface some of that. And some of the drawbacks to having to go through those different combinations is that basically, as a busy manager or analyst, you've got a lot of things on your plate. So having to take the time to do that is really not necessarily the best use of your time. As you spend that time going through your combinations, you're not even sure if you're going to actually get that return. And basically, if you do see something that looks a bit interesting, is it significant? Is it just a minor blip in your data? And we are human. We are kind of hardwired in lots of ways. So you kind of go into your system, you think, well, I'm going to check A, B, C, and D. There might be X, Y, and Z that you haven't thought to check, but the computer might be able to work that out for you and look at your underlying data. So what is the objective of the Automated Insights tool? First thing really is to get insights quickly. So that you can go into the tool, you'll see immediately where you might need to take action. So what are your threats? What are your opportunities? Again, by surfacing those kind of interesting outliers and hotspots, you can use that as the start of your investigation rather than taking multiple steps to get there and then starting to do your interrogation of the data. By surfacing these insights in a Pac-Man easy-to-consume visualization, it just means it's an easier way for you to start. You can see the nuggets of information that are important and take that and delve into it more deeply. And we also want to give some indication of how strong those relationships are and how significant the data is, and give it a ranking so you know where to kind of spend the most of your time. So some of the benefits of using the Thorogood Automated Insights tool. It comes with a whole pre-packaged set of algorithms. So Amanda was just talking about algorithms, models, machine learning, AI. We use combinations of those in the tool. And we look at the underlying data and try to surface those threats and opportunities. By using AI in this situation, you'll be able to get your managers to do more than they were just doing if there was just a human being doing it themselves multiple times. We're using Azure in this solution. So we've seen AWS, we've seen some examples of Azure. Here we've gone for Azure, so it's a very quick turnaround to deploy the solution. And then because we're using Databricks behind the scenes, you hear us talk a lot about Databricks today. We're using Databricks behind the scenes to both take that data in, do that cleansing, do the data modeling, and then running the analytics code and surfacing the results. Basically, we're taking in our data from multiple sources. The same concept we've seen in AWS and Azure. We take in the raw data, we do some processing on it, we run some analytics on it, we surface those outputs. Here we're using an Azure SQL database. If you've got very large data volumes, you might want to upgrade that and use Data Warehouse, and then surface the results in Power BI. The clever bit is in this engine that we're using Databricks for, running a number of different transformations and algorithms on the data. So first, we run some clustering algorithms. So to build upon the base data that's there, we start trying to find interesting groupings and segmentations within the data. That could be finding we've got different pricing for the products. We might try and find different pricing clusters. We look at the pack size as an item and start grouping and clustering based on the pack size to get more of a feel for how they're interacting. We look at the different KPIs in the system, and we don't just look at the very top level or the very low level. We look at every level in our hierarchies and every combination and work out where there's a significant change. And we only surface the results where we think there's something that's actually worth looking at. So we don't want to mask at a certain level. So maybe the segment itself is fine, but you've got a nugget down at the brand variant level, then that's the level we'll surface. We use some other techniques. So we're looking at trying to find some outliers. So what we'll do there is we've used some forecasting algorithms to see what's the prediction for the next period. And if we're seeing a large deviation from there, we'll surface that. That could be an unexpected threat or decline, or it could be an opportunity where people are moving into a new space or a new size. So here we've got a Power BI report. And this is our very front screen, it's our highlight screen. So for those who are unfamiliar, Power BI is a front-end tool from Microsoft. Pippa and Charlotte are going to talk about Tableau, so it's a very similar front-end tool, so it allows you to do a lot of dashboarding and reporting. We've used this because we're using the Microsoft Azure stack. So what this highlight screen is showing me is a very high-level view of my market. So just to explain, the market we're looking at in here is a made-up deodorant category, and Thorogood AIM is my company, and I'm interested in looking at my sales versus my competitors. I was quite surprised to learn just how seasonal the deodorant market is. I personally use deodorant every day. I hope most people in the room do as well. You know, in the summer I might splash out and get some of those little handbag size ones, but I think I was quite surprised at just how seasonal that actual the market was looking. So what we've got here, when you've got a very seasonal product, it's interesting when you look at the comparisons of over time. So here we can see the underlying trend. So overall, as a category, that market is growing. But we can definitely see the seasonality in there. So it makes me think if I'm going to do some reporting about my sales, I might want to use something smoothing, so like a moving annual total, so that when I'm looking at my performance, I get a better feel for how it actually is underpinning. At the bottom here, we've got a chart which shows the top 5 companies in the market. So we're using a ribbon chart here. And what's nice about this, rather than a stacked bar chart, is it actually tells me when the rankings change between my companies. So if I go and look between these 2 periods, I can see that the rank has decreased for kind of Comprodeo and has increased for Plymouth. So it's a handy little visual, I think, because you can start to see where those interplaying are happening between your key competitors. On the right-hand side here, we've got 2 different areas. So we've got outliers and blank spaces. What Outliers is trying to do is it's trying to see where they're seeing an unexpected change in the monthly movements. So here we can see we've got 40 different brand variants where the growth was higher than we thought, and 16 of them are from my products, the remaining are from my competitors. And with blank spaces, it's where we think that there's actually an opportunity for us to move into a specific segment. So where we've got blank spaces that we don't have an offering, we've got 30 of those identified. But there's another 38 where we actually do have a product, but we're not selling it in all of our regions or all of our channels, but competitors are. So it's given me a very high-level view of areas I might want to drill into further. So the first area I'm going to look in is my outliers. And what this has done, we've got some filters across the top here. This has pre-filtered my data to anything where it's found something interesting in terms of an outlier. So you can see here we've got our Flavour of India brand. And we've got a number of different brand variants within that as well. Down at the bottom here, we've got the volume sales, and we can see there's quite a spike here in February. But we know from the seasonality that normally February is quite a low month. So there's something going on there we might want to investigate. And what the underlying algorithm has done is said it's seen this spike, it's had a look at the underlying data, and it said, well, actually, you're selling at 15% more stores in terms of distribution than you normally would do. So that might be something you've maybe gone into some new outlets. So go and have a look at that and check if that's what's driving that kind of spike. I can also go in and change a different brand. I'm going to look at my Blonde Co. in the Northeast. And here we see that overall there's been a bit of a dip in the last few months, but this month's increased. And it said, okay, well, you've actually sold slightly less in slightly less stores, and your increasing price has gone up. So you're costing more money, so some places probably haven't stocked you. So what it's trying to do is look at the combination of attributes beneath the data, surface them up, and then act as a starting point for you to do further analysis. Let's go back to my highlights. And I'm going to look into these blank spaces or white spaces. So there's the two components of the white spaces that I mentioned. In this section here, and that's what the table below is showing me, we've actually got competitors selling products in a segment that we don't have an offering in. And if we did actually sell into that, that would be into another 9% of that market share. And what it's trying to do at the bottom here is it's kind of given us sorted by the highest market share, and then it's given an indication of a growth score. So the growth score isn't as simple as just, are we trending up or trending down? It's taking the last 3, 6, 12 and all our history, looking at those different movements, weighting them, and then giving them a relative score to see whether you're increasing or decreasing in that particular segment. If I look at this first one, which has got the highest market share, I can see that there's a bit of a dip here. It's not growing massively, but it is an increasing one, so it might be one I want to do a bit of research into. And I can quite quickly go through each of these opportunities. Now this one looks quite good because it's got a reasonable growth score. It's quite a small market share, but it looks like it's a fairly new product that's come in. So it might be something we want to get in on and maybe add a new variant into our line and maybe delist something else so we still got the same number of SKUs we're managing. If I look at the area on the right-hand side, what this is saying is actually you have a product that did the analysis of our products and our competitor products. It kind of aligned them to see where the comparison would be. And I can see here that in this Fairlife discount area, we currently are not selling in that particular channel, but we do have a product, which is our Thorogood Radiance, that is a comparable product to it. So we should be looking to sell that in that region. And I can see from my trend chart here that there's quite a big spike in growth in that market. So it's definitely an area I'd want to look into. I'm just going to go and look at some of these other views we've got created here. So here we've got a high-level view of the market. What we've got on the top row here is basically based on share by our key attributes. So in this scenario here, we've got brand, channel, region, and pack and price. Depending on your industry, that might be a line of business, customer type, region. It really does depend on what your business key attributes are. But here we've got channels, and then we've got the top performers in terms of growth, so which ones are growing the most. And you can see it's not always the same. I'm going to just pick one of these for a moment. And you can see here we've got some key insights with some indicative icons on the left-hand side. So they are quite small, but the little wiggly green line is showing that there's an increase in sales. Wiggly red is down, decrease in sales. And this is where the overall segment is actually decreasing. And what it's saying on the right-hand side as well is it's trying to give an indication of what the key products are in each segment. So if I look at this one that's decreasing, it's saying that this is actually the main product. It's showing a bit of a decline, but it has got a very high share. And there's something low going on in the price. We also got promotion information about prices. So they're obviously cutting the price to try to see if they can try to reverse that decline that's going on. I'm going to just focus in on my channel overview. Slightly different setup here. So I've got a list of different channels I can look at. But we're focusing in here on our independent channels, independent chemists, sorry. And again, here we're interested in the brand, the variant, and the pack size. if I look at this high share variant, I can see I've got some increasing areas and some decreasing. If I want to see a bit more, I can right-click and do a drill-through report, which gives me a bit more information about that. It shows me my underlying trend, a bit of history, and where we've got it in here, it's saying, actually, we've got no product in this channel. It's something we might want to sell into. So it's trying to introduce a bit of proactive ways of looking and managing your portfolio. Go back. The regional review is very similar to the channel, so I won't focus in on that. But I will have a quick look at the brand overview. So what's slightly different here is we've got each of our brands that Thorogood aim sell. So we've got our brands on the left-hand side. We're then going to analyse the competitors. So here we've got a very high-level view of our Jump brand. So it's a fairly high market share, medium decline, but actually in the short term it actually has been picking back up again. I want to look at Radiance that we looked at earlier. I can see that we've segregated our kind of insights into three. We've got our key threats, so things where we think actually there's something going on here. So this competitor is coming in with a high market share and it's actually cutting our prices or the average price, so it's coming in lower. So we might want to take some activity and do some promotions here. Our bright spots are where we're behaving very well. And then our outliers are where we're seeing something that's not quite explainable. So I can hover over. On the first one, it didn't find any underlying causes. But for this one, it's saying, actually, we've decreased the price. So that could be why we're seeing a bit of a spike. And again, here, we've actually increased the number of stores that we're going out to. So we're going to 16% more stores. So that's how we're increasing our distribution. And again, for all of these, I can do the drill through to the detail. So that was a very quick whistle-stop tour through the Automated Insights tool. But I hope what it showed you is that we can surface those insights very quickly, get to take the action that we need to. And then because the data is actually all held within this Power BI workbook, the analysts and managers can extend this capability, create their own views of the data. And then, as Amanda was saying about trusting the results, it's not a black box. You've got all of the underlying data available with you, and then you can basically verify and validate the results. So how do we engage if this is something that's of interest to you? So first of all, we would do an initial workshop, really to understand the scope of the data that you're interested in. What are the KPIs you're interested in reporting? What are your data sources and how they would need to all come together? Depending on the architecture that you've got in place, that could be something that could be built upon your existing architecture, or could be something that we could host and set up for you in an Azure environment. Once the architecture is in place, we can start to configure the engine. Quite often what we find with customers, apart from the artificial intelligence and running the algorithms, there'll be some key business logic and key business drivers that they want to surface as well. So we augment the automated insights with business-specific logic as well. And also the dashboards, depending on what the attributes are in your data, you might want to configure some of those as well. And then once you run the data through the model, there might need to be some tweaks. We'll start looking at the data, may do some refinements, and it is an iterative process, so continually learning, taking that feedback loop, running more data through the system, and surfacing those insights and getting feedback. So at a high level, that's what that process looks like. We work out the sources, we import them, we model them, we make sure you've got good quality data going in. As Amanda was saying earlier, it's kind of garbage in and garbage out. You don't want to do your analytics on data that isn't high quality and isn't joined together correctly. Generate those insights, make sure they're visible, and make sure they're driving to action. Just paying lip service to AI and just ticking a box in your data transformation program isn't what's going to cut it. It's being able to surface the insights, taking the action, and proving the business value that really comes from that.